Well, hello, folks. I'm Jeffrey Darty, your Christian whistleblower, coming to you live from Orlando, Florida. And I want to talk to you today, picking up on what we talked about last week. And I want to ask the question, believe it or not, is the Mandela effect a work of the Antichrist? That's right. Is the Mandela effect a work of the Antichrist? And again, this is so important that I have put some notes down. So I will be working from the teleprompter, if you will. But is the Mandela effect the work of the Antichrist? Believe it or not, the great prophet Daniel, the famous survivor of the lion's den, wrote that his words, the words that he wrote, would be sealed up until the time of the end. And that time being when many should run to and fro, and when knowledge will increase. That's Daniel 12 and verse number 4. And whether we're not actually literally at the end of time or the end of all things, we're certainly living in the days that I believe these words of Daniel, written, folks, nearly 3,000 years ago, are exploding into our reality, and that with awesome meaning. And these words and a few others in another passage penned by the world's first lion tamer are an ancient prophecy of one of the most confounding realities of our day. What if I told you that Daniel foresaw the Mandela effect? What if I told you that Daniel foretold the Mandela effect? And what if I told you that the great prophet Daniel foretold and the great prophet Daniel foresaw that the Mandela effect is the work of the fiend known as the Antichrist? What if the great sealed meaning of Daniel's words are only now being opened, and that to show us a staggering, sobering, yet ultimately exhilarating truth? I believe it's the case. I believe the time is now. Let the unsealing begin. Now, as difficult as it is for us to believe that a book written nearly 3,000 years ago would detail the unfolding of a modern technology-driven effect, an objective look at these texts themselves will leave little doubt in the objective empirical mind. It's an amazing discovery that I hope will create renewed interest and renewed study in the ancient text. And I also hope that it will call the interested into a renewed devotion towards the text itself, as opposed to the teachings of man-made religions about these great texts. And the two, as we shall see, are quite irreconcilable. And so with an open mind, chin raised, jaw hardened and set, with a decided and objective empirical set, let us begin. May the words of the lion tamer still within us the growling beast of religious opinion. Daniel 7:25, he will speak out against the Most High. He'll wear down the saints of the highest one. He'll think to change times and laws. Daniel 7:25. Now, the he of this verse is almost universally held to be the so-called Antichrist, born of the proponents of the modern school of evangelical Christian eschatology. And eschatology, defined by its adherents, means the study of the end times. Now, whomever he may be, a question that we'll attempt to answer later, what exactly is the he of this verse thinking to do? He's thinking to change times and laws. Now, let me give you a look at the original rendering of the verse, as you know we always do in the original Greek, because we don't want you to think there's any tomfoolery going on. And we also do want you to be able, if this silly thing will let me share, we do want you to be able to learn how to actually study the Bible on your own. Be your own guru, guide your own spirit, master your own ascension. We're in Daniel 7:25. And as we just read, and I always have a little trouble with this thing getting just the words I want. He, speaking of the Antichrist, will speak out against the Most High. He'll wear down the saints of the Highest One, and he will intend to make alterations in times and in law, and they'll be given into his time. We don't need to get into that. But we want to, that's the English rendering. So we're going to, again, scooch up here. We're going to click interlinear, and now, boom, what we have is the original Hebrew of this verse. And Hebrew reads right to left. So great words against the Most High he will speak, and the saints of the Most High he will wear out. And here's what we're really looking at. He will think to make atonement. That's not going to work. He will think to make atonement to times and laws. And what we need to do is look at think. What does it mean? It means that he will, this Antichrist, he will intend to change. He's intending to make changes. You see, there's nothing up my sleeve, and at no time do my fingers leave my hands. He's going to think, now this says to make atonement, kind of a weird look, but if we look at what the word means, it means he's going to change. See, he wants to change things. And if you look down here, you get the expanded definition of the word: alter, changes, damage, different, grow even paler. Damage is interesting. Make alterations, violate. So that's what he's wanting to do. He's wanting to make changes. And what is he wanting to make changes to? He's wanting to make changes to times and laws. Now that's what we're going to look at today. He wants to make changes to times and laws. He intends or sets his mind to alter, change, or make diverse times, epochs, and or change laws. And that word is dath, which is going to prove very, very interesting to us. So for the sake of context, let's grant for the moment that this verse does indeed refer to the Antichrist without any other further commentary. Now, this Antichrist has or will set his mind to make alterations and changes that will, according to Daniel, make diverse times, epochs, and laws. Now, what we want to look at first is he wants to alter and change. Now, the original sense within the Hebrew is that these alterations and changes will result in diversity and or multiplicity in times, epochs, or what is called laws. Now, of course, the implications of such a thing would be staggering. So let's look at each thing that the Antichrist will change. Now, we just saw that he wants to change time. And time, the first basic meaning of that word is simply the concept of time itself. Daniel told us 3,000 years ago that the Antichrist will seek to mess with time. And then it says he wants to mess with times. Many in this, when they read this word, think of sanctified occasions or holy days. Many Bible scholars have believed that some Antichrist power would and has changed holy days. Sabbatarian groups point to this verse to talk about the changing of Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday by the Roman Church, without any actual proof that Yeshua or any of his associates ever suggested such a thing. And there's other groups that hold to what are called the feast days that have a very strong textual and linguistic argument that this verse applies to changing the appointed times of the Moed of the Elohim, which was set forth in Genesis chapter 2, verse 14. But both of those are sound arguments, but neither one of those is the subject of our study. What I want to get to now is the word epochs. And if we go back to looking at Daniel's actual literal rendering, and let me go back to sharing this with you. Well, maybe I'm not going to be able to go back to sharing it with you at this point for some unknown reason. Here we go. So we're going to go back and share this with you again. And what we're going to do is we want to get back to epochs. This word times, if we go up here and click on it, what does it mean? It means appointed period, epochs, and time. And the important thing is epochs. If you define what an epoch is, folks, believe it or not, an epoch is defined as a period of time in history or a person's life marked by notable events or particular characteristics. So Daniel told us the Antichrist is going to want to change period of time in history or in our lives that are marked by notable events or particular characteristics. Now, leaving out the work of the theological implications of the sacred seasons, we're left with and are going to focus on definite biblical statements, folks. Definite biblical statements that an Antichrist power intends to change and alter time itself. And this power, as promised by Daniel, as prophesied by Daniel, will seek to change and alter notable events and characteristics of a person's life and history, and even to create multiple lines of time. Folks, I was trying to get through this without drinking. This is a perfect definition of what we're currently seeing in the Mandela effect. And this from a man who wrote 3,000 years ago. Well, that's it for this session. We'll be back again later this week to bring you more about the Mandela effect and Antichrist. I am your Christian whistleblower, Jeffrey Daugherty, and I got to get my groovy background back up here. What happened? But we want to let you know we will be back, and I'm bringing you peace, I'm bringing you light, and above all else, I'm encouraging you to unindoctrinate yourself.